Hello everyone, Chris Does Infinite here, and those of you who have watched me for a while, that is including deleted and unlisted videos, will know that I used to make crappy moveset videos, and I'm here to make an actually scripted one. Who, you might ask? Well, if you haven't seen the thumbnail or read the title, it is Thomas the Tank Engine. I'm dead fucking serious. Now, some of you might know that Thomas is actually already in a platform fighter called Rivals of Aether. And don't freak out, this video is not a carbon copy of that moveset. At least, not that I know of. I haven't seen his moveset in a while. But enough of this lengthy intro, let's dive straight into his moveset. Thomas's jab attack would have him roll forward and roll back into his original spot. Very basic, I know, but he is a steam engine. I don't know what else you want me to do. Similarly, his side tilt would have him push a truck forward and then pull it back. Very similar, but it has some extra disjoint because he has a troublesome truck in front of him. His up tilt would have him blow a cloud of steam from his funnel upwards directly above himself. For Thomas's down tilt, he would simply wish steam around himself, launching foes away after doing small flinching damage. And finally, for his basic attacks, his dash attack would have him simply charge forward and then slam on his brakes. The sparks from Thomas braking would deal small flinching damage, but the real hard hitter is Thomas himself. For Thomas's side smash, he simply bumps the truck forward and it travels a short distance. For his up smash, he puffs so hard, he blows sparks out of his funnel. The sparks doing small flinching damage, and can only hit directly above or in front and behind Thomas. For Thomas's down smash, a danger sign will appear next to him, and he will try to pass it, only for the ground to collapse beneath him, and he falls into a mine. Any foes too close will be dragged into the mine and crushed under Thomas's weight. This attack will have a lot of end lag, as Thomas will have to wait for Gordon to pull him out before he can continue the fight. Thomas isn't really a character who necessarily needs a gimmick, so this is more of just a visual thing to clarify something that may be confusing before we get into the aerials. As you know, Thomas is a steam engine, and last I checked, steam engines can't jump. And no, all engines go to the count, and neither does Chuggington. Go away. Instead, Thomas will jump by having a breakdown crane spawn in the background, and that will lift him up. With that out of the way, Thomas's neutral air would simply have him surround himself in steam. His forward air would have the breakdown crane swinging forwards. The back air would be the same thing, except he is swung backwards. And the up air, tying him off the plane, will come from the background and fly over Thomas, hitting any foe directly above him. And finally, for his down air, it will have Gordon race past underneath Thomas while pulling the express. Every part of this attack, apart from Thomas and the crane, has a hitbox. So, if you're popped into the air by Gordon initially passing through, and then you land on one of his coaches, you will be popped back up into the air higher. Thomas cannot use Gordon to gain height for himself. Thomas grabs foes by catching them inside of a troublesome truck. His pummel will have Thomas bump the truck. His forward throw will have him bump the truck forward into a set of buffers. His back throw will have him bump the truck onto another line where Percy then appears to bump the truck backwards behind Thomas. His up throw will have the truck appear on James's goods train, only for him to crash and the sudden stop causing the foe to be launched upwards into the air, and his down throw will have the truck turn into a hopper and the foe will be tipped out of the truck and buried in a pile of coal. For Thomas's neutral special, he summons the ever-iconic windmill that will blow foes away and will occasionally be struck by lightning, setting it on fire. Any foes too close to it, including Thomas, will be set on fire as well. For his side special, he would simply charge forward while pulling his two faithful coaches, Annie and Clarabelle. His up special would have him lifted into the air by Cranky the Crane from Brendam Docks. And finally, his down special would have his side rods break off and fall to the ground, and creating a shockwave launching any foes who are too close to Thomas. For Thomas's final smash, he releases a large amount of steam, flinching any foe caught by it. They are then pulled into a cinematic final smash that recreates his big crash from the 2012 movie Blue Mountain Mystery.
Boulder Drop and Blondin Bridge. Luke! Luke!
Thomas tried to race off to find Luke, but then there was trouble. His wheels were too big for the narrow gauge tracks.
Oh dear!
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Oh no!
Thomas was in danger.
The cinematic would open with the captured fighters standing in front of the barrier for Boulder Drop. The shot would then cut to Thomas attempting to cross the narrow gauge tracks, crashing through the barrier and knocking foes off of the cliff. Since I did not cover them earlier, like most people would have, I will be covering Thomas's weight and movement options here before I get on to the other stuff. Thomas would be a heavyweight character and would have 2 jumps and no additional movement options. Thomas's first taunt would have him blow his whistle and say,
"Wake up, lazy bones, why don't you work hard like me?"
His next taunt would have the jet engine race past him and have him say,
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
"Bust my buffers!
Bust 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 my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers! Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Bust my buffers!
Alright, I get it!
And his final taunt would have him bump into a truck too hard and say his iconic line,
Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes,
Cinders and ashes!
Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes!
Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes!
Thomas.
Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes! Cinders and ashes!
Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes! 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 Cinders and ashes. 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 Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes.
Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Cinders and ashes. Oh, cinders and ashes. 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 Get it!
For his victory animations, his first would have him arriving at Farquhar Station, and the camera would zoom in on his face as he smiled and said, "I am a really useful engine." The next would have him bash through a set of buffers, down a hill, and through a brick wall, in reference to his crash in the episode Thomas and the Special Letter. His final victory animation would see him sleeping in his shed before waking up and whistling while looking at the camera. Thomas's default coloration would be his usual NWR blue with red lining and the number 1 on his side tanks. His first alt would be the same as his default, except with a flat running board and black footplate, in reference to his rebuilt design as seen after the events of Thomas Comes to Breakfast. His second alt would see him with green paint and white lining with LBSC painted on his side and the number 70 on his side tanks, in reference to his pre-Sodor livery as seen in The Adventure Begins. His next alt would see him painted black with red lining, the number 106 on his cab sides, and LBSC on his side tanks, in reference to what his real-life pre-Sodor livery would have been. Leaning into a Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure theme here, his fourth alt would be dark blue with Isledale written on his side tanks, in reference to Bert the miniature engine. Similarly, his next alt would be the exact same, except in green, in reference to Rex the miniature engine, and his sixth alt would be red with Isledale written on the side, in reference to Mike the miniature engine. And finishing off the theme of Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure characters, his final alt would be purple with GNR written on his side tanks and the number 1014 written on his cab sides. It's in reference to Ryan, the purple tank engine. For his stage entrance, he would simply emerge onto the stage from the Hackenbeck tunnel, pulling Annie and Clarabelle, who would swiftly disappear once the animation ends. For Kirby's copy ability, his hat would simply be Thomas's smokebox and funnel, and his ability would work by summoning the windmill as normal, but it would be smaller and would instantly get electrocuted and ignite, working the same way as Thomas's neutral special works. Thomas's music tracks would be He's a Really Useful Engine, the classic series theme song, and the hit era theme song, also known as the engine roll call. As for stages, Thomas would bring with him Farquhar Station and Knapford Station. That's gonna about do it for this video. If you liked, leave a goddamn like. I don't know what to tell you, man. Also make sure to subscribe, comment if you want me to do another one of these, and if so, don't tell me what to do, because I'm not an ideas fountain if you didn't know. Go follow me on Twitter at DukeTrans. It's supposed to say trains, but I suck at spelling. I don't have anything more to say, so please get out of my video. You still here? Wow. I get the fuck out.